Hello everyone, in the previous chapter, we learned about the comprehensive regulation and control of the power grid. I believe everyone has a further understanding of the power grid dispatching operation. In this chapter, we further understand the comprehensive regulation and control of the power grid through a specific task of the power grid operation. The operation task is to decouple the Taojiang plant from the Guangzhou power grid. Let's start the content of this class, case analysis. First of all, let's review the decoupling conditions of the system. Before the decoupling operation of the system, in principle, the active power of the disconnection point should be adjusted to zero, and the reactive power should be adjusted to a minimum. When adjustment is indeed difficult, it is generally appropriate to use a small system. When a small amount of active power is transmitted to a large system, disconnect the decoupling switch, so that the frequency and voltage of the two systems after the decoupling operation are within the allowable range. Let's first analyze the operation mode before the decoupling. As shown in the figure, the Taojiang plant is a 110 kV small system, which is connected to the Gaoqiao transformer through the Taogao line, and then runs in parallel with the Guangzhou power grid. Please refer to the blue line mark in the figure. The Taojiang plant transmits 9.9 megawatts of active power to the Guangzhou power grid through the Taogao line. Therefore, the load of the Taogao line needs to be adjusted before the decoupling operation. How to adjust the load of the Taogao line? Dispatching remote operation. Gradually reduce the power output of the Taojiang plant until the active power of the Taogao line is close to zero, and the actual value is 0.3 megawatts. Please refer to the blue line mark in the figure. At this time, the decoupling operation can be carried out. The first step is to disconnect the decoupling switch on the small system side, that is, disconnect the Taojiang plant 111 switch. Please refer to the blue line mark in the figure. At this time, the monitoring of the Taogao line shows that the active load is zero. Has the decoupling of the system been completed at this time? The next step is to disconnect the decoupling switch on the large system side, that is, disconnect the switch of Takahashi transformer 111. Please refer to the blue line mark in the figure. At this time, the switches on both sides of the Taogao line have been disconnected, and the Taojiang plant and Guangzhou power grid have completed the decoupling operation. After the decoupling operation, it is also necessary to monitor whether the two systems are operating normally. The monitoring found that the frequency and voltage of the Taojiang plant are within the allowable range after the decoupling operation, and the Guangzhou power grid is operating normally. So far, the Taojiang plant and Guangzhou power grid have completed the decoupling operation, and the two systems operate independently. Boys and girls, this class describes the case analysis of power grid dispatching, the decoupling operation between the Taojiang plant and the Guangzhou power grid. The decoupling operation is a more complex switching operation of the power grid. Many problems are required to be considered, and it has a great impact on the power grid. Sometimes it needs to be calculated and confirmed in detail before the operation can be carried out. You must carefully understand and master it, so that they can be used flexibly in your work. Everyone thinks about the steps of decoupling operation between the systems with load flow. Finally, let's summarize the content of this chapter. It is the paralleling and decoupling, or the loop closing or loop opening of the power system. I hope you can learn to apply it in connection with practice. That's all for this lesson. Thank you.